All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome back. Another episode of the Card Hedge podcast. I'm your host, Retro Hoops, aka Omar. With me, of course, is the beautiful JD. What's happening, brother?
What's going on, my man? How you doing tonight?
My Astros are in the World Series. Dusty's gonna get him one. I'm pumped.
Nice. I just
I got
watched your what is that? What is it? Oh my god.
my ALCS ring from last year, baby. That's right.
Dude. You know what?
Don't
This is the
disrespect it.
greatest hat of all time right here. 04
Oh,
champion
look
Red
at you.
Sox. Greatest comeback ever. I don't even wear this thing. I just leave it up here.
Have they
That was the greatest time of my life, dude.
school me? Have they won since then?
Yeah, they won in 07, they won in 13,
Okay.
they won in 18 or so.
All right.
No. Third, yeah. I don't know, they won 3 or 4.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
We just win all the time now. It gets old.
Yeah, it just kind of
That
gets
first
tired.
that first one was like was epic. It was epic.
I was gonna say, dude, I was like, man, if the last time you guys won was in 03 or 04, you got, you're in Cowboys territory at that point, right? Where you're like,
Yeah,
really,
no, because the 03 Aaron freaking Boone hit that home run off Wakefield that broke my heart. I burned my Nomar jersey after that. Dare I say I had a lot of cocktails that night.
oh
And
yeah,
then
okay.
and then 04, dude, they were down 3-1. And then
Alcohol
as
fuel.
the episode goes, 4 nights in October, it was the greatest thing ever, man, that comeback. So
Oh
cowboy
yeah.
up, baby.
04, 07, 13, and 18.
Yeah, I was right. So
Yeah.
yep.
Okay. Good stuff, man.
Yep. Those first two were awesome though. The first one was just the greatest thing ever, man. This
Yeah,
New
because
England was like
before that it was 1918,
18. Yep.
right?
Yep. Curse of
So
the Bambino.
Curse of the
Dude,
Bambino.
New England literally shut down. Like it was so
The
awesome.
curses thing is real, isn't it?
What's that?
That curses thing, that's a real thing with you baseball
Yeah,
guys, isn't it?
it was for a long time, and then Pedro came out and he's like, "Wake up the Bambino, I'll drill him in his ass," and then
Good stuff, man.
yeah,
All right, so this is a very special special podcast this episode.
yeah,
The date that it airs is very special. We'll get into that in a second, but this is our first episode with a guest. Very exciting.
with a
Very
with a
exciting.
guest.
So I'll let you do the intros and then we'll bring him in. So
All
go
right.
ahead, man.
So when you're batting leadoff for the Card Hedge podcast, you got to go
Yeah.
strong, and there's nobody else to lead us off than our guest tonight. Good buddy of mine, Adam Gertz, aka So Sharp It Gertz. There he is.
Nice.
My man, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Welcome, sir.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Looking forward to some hobby and baseball banter with two famous individuals such as yourself. So very excited
Oh,
to
boy.
chat. Thanks for having me, for sure.
He's
Nice.
famous. I'm not. I'm just a sidekick. I'm good being Goose. You know what I mean? Like I'm good being the wingman. It's cool. And PK, I read the comments. I'm gonna let Omar talk more, so you can't comment.
Stop it.
I'm just kidding. I don't care what he says.
Let's
But
go.
anyway, so listen.
Just-
Before we get going into all the nonsense, we're never really serious here. But this is something near and dear to my heart. And I think everybody, I know Omar and whatnot. This episode, when it airs, it will actually air on today, which is the birthday of the beautiful United States Marine Corps.
Shout out to all
Adam
the
is
Marines.
a active soldier. So we thank you for your service, my friend, and allowing people like us to act like idiots on YouTube. Without you guys, the men and women of the armed forces, we would not be where we are today. So big shout out to you. Much love. And we really appreciate all you guys out there doing what you do, taking time from your families and making sure,
Making those sacrifices.
remains the greatest country in the world. So thank you for that, my friend.
I can tell you that, especially coming from an immigrant, first generation immigrant coming from a completely different country. I got here as soon as I could. I've traveled all over the world. all over the world except Antarctica. I haven't hit Antarctica, and by a long shot, best country in the world. So thank you guys.
Yeah.
Thank you, Adam, for your service. Thank you to all the servicemen and women out there for your service. Shout out to the Marine Corps. Awesome stuff, man. What a way to kick things off, man.
I'm like fired up now. Like
isn't it right? You're like all jazzed up now.
like, should we start? Like, should we do a couple? Like, like what the hell's that movie? Like Full Metal Jacket. Should we do a couple like songs real quick? Like, I don't know, but I've been told.
I think we'll draw the line there.
Yeah, we'll stop there because then it gets vulgar. Adam, we're trying really hard on this podcast to not get the E on our episodes, and no matter what we do,
we somehow managed to. Yeah, we managed to screw it up, but it is what it is. It just means that it won't get to the snowflakes. That's all.
Yeah, that's all. So, Adam, man. So the reason why we had you on tonight, we asked you on. I'd say sometime in the last 2 or 3 months, I was actually a guest on Retro's channel. Back before he joined forces with us, and we were talking baseball, and Omar, he doesn't have quite the knowledge as far as you do when it comes to prospecting in baseball. And he was asking me some questions, and I said, you know what, I'm really not the guy for this. Like, I know the guys obviously, but like, the whole Bowman Chrome prospecting thing is really like a science. And from our conversations, my friend, you've got it down to like, carrying the one and all kinds of good stuff. So we're happy to have you on here to educate us, and hopefully everybody that listens on what you do with the prospecting, how you got into it, the whole nine. And so let's get going, man. So like, why don't we start with this? How long have you been collecting for?
Hold on, JD. Before we get into all that, let's do our pickups.
Oh yeah, my bad. I forgot that crap.
Sorry. Yeah. Let's do the pickups. Let's do the top 5, which will be baseball this week. Very baseball heavy. A lot going on in baseball right now. We got the World Series already lined up, ready for Friday. So good stuff, man. So what we'll do is share pickups of the week. Adam, I don't think I prepped you ahead of time, but we do a pickup of the week every week. I don't know if you have something to share. If you do, if you're set. If not, we can just jump into JD real quick.
Yeah, so I did JD. I shot you some photos. So I think that one pool from last weekend, that'd probably be my top pickup. I think you have the photo. I don't have the photo up to share. But...
You want to send that to me, JD? We'll throw that thing up real quick.
Yeah.
Because I got an interesting basketball one, which was an oddball pickup for me, but a must-have.
Which one did you grab, Adam, this last week?
It was the silver pack hit.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you got into one of those silver packs.
Yeah. So this one's wild. There's a little bit of a story behind it.
So, Omar, it's right in the chat, dude, that we have.
Yeah.
Pull up the Bryce Harper, the last one.
Oh, okay. I got you.
Yeah, there's a crazy story behind this.
Gotcha. Here we go. That's a monster card. I mean, I'm not even that big into baseball, and I know that's a monster card.
It's unbelievable.
Look at that.
Yeah, there she is. Yeah, so
good God Almighty.
Weekend last weekend. It took me a couple months to make it over to my LCS Bel Air Sports Cards to pick up my pre-order. I was honestly apprehensive after the whole short print exclusion fiasco. So once the shop owner reached out, he's like, "Hey, the silver packs are in." I kind of made my way over there. Nice. Ripped my box. It was a dud. Seems like that's the case for everybody, right? And actually, I had 2 boxes. Both were duds. Saved the silver packs for the last. And I opened the first silver pack and saw that it was an older card. I could tell right away by the thickness of it. And then the back was a completely different back. So I'm like, what is this? This is going to be something wild. And lo and behold, that bad boy came out 2012 Bowman Chrome rookie Bryce Harper came out of a 2022 Topps Chrome silver pack. So
now that's not supposed to be in there, correct?
Absolutely not. So here's from my understanding, Topps in an effort to save face after the SP fiasco, right? They I guess tapped into their stockpile of unfulfilled redemptions that were expired, and this card was incredibly. They call it like a very short printed auto because a lot of the redemptions didn't get filled back in the day. So I'm assuming we'll see a lot more of them enter the market now. But as of now, that one's a tough pull. Predominantly, you'll see the Bowman Draft Harper rookie auto. It's a different photo, streaky signature. This one's a tough pull. So made my day. I back college Adam went pretty ham on trying to find a Harper auto through Topps Chrome and Bowman Chrome. Yeah, I blew way too much money. So the fact that I was able to do this, being from the so I'm from Maryland, you know, being in that DMV area, to be able to pull this card, I mean, it was my dream to pull a Harper rookie or first Bowman back in the day.
And this is an on card.
On card.
Yeah, that's sick.
Clean auto, no streaking like some of the other ones I've seen. So very excited to pull that. Had to share that one. So not necessarily a pickup, but a hit for the past week.
Dude, that's you pickup. You picked up the packs, bro.
That's right.
Good.
That's tough to follow too. Now
I was gonna say, JD, I'm gonna let you take the next step, man, because that's a tough one.
I gotta go next. All right, I guess. All right, since we're going to autos, I got a lot, but whatever. I grabbed this nice KG Ultimate Signatures out of Ultimate Collection. From the hell year is this from? 02?
That's good. Yeah, I was gonna say like 02, 03. Yeah.
Yep. So it's you know, it's nice. The little bit on the edges and whatnot, but it's a PC card. It goes with the rest of the KG stuff. This bad boy came in. I don't know if I showed that. That's the light's killing
immaculate me. Rookie patch auto. Triple
Jaren
J.
Jackson. Yep. Got that in. You know my love for Tua.
Look at you.
Picked up Tua.
When is he coming back?
He's back.
Was he back last week?
Yeah, he played. Then I got just a bunch of hockey. So a guy for the Bruins that started off pretty well. This dude AJ Greer picked up an Young Guns exclusive. These things are pretty good out of 100. Then I grabbed some normal Young Guns. I grabbed a cup. These things are sweet. Rookie patch auto.
Oh, look at that. That's nice.
The glare is just killing it. Sorry. These all came in from L Canada. Future Watch auto.
Okay.
AJ Greer. And
that was an auto, huh?
Yeah, a lot of autos. Future Watch of Connor Clifton for the Bruins.
Look at you, man.
You can tell I'm a big Bruins guy. Some red autos of Connor Clifton. And another Future Watch of AJ Greer. That's it for this week. I'm embarrassed after.
That's it.
Just stopped at the KG. I mean, he went Bryce Harper auto rookie right off the bat.
That's it. This guy says that's it. Yeah,
mic drop. We might as well end the episode.
A handful of rookies. All right, so I'm gonna get mine because I'm like, this is just garbage in comparison. But 3-patch rookie auto for John Wall, baby.
Wow,
John Wall.
I have a couple of John Wall rookies, but I've been wanting to pick up a kind of like a RPA. Now, this isn't really the biggest thing in the world, right? It's a Panini Absolute memorabilia, but it's got the patch, the ball, and then another piece of patch in there. It says that it's guaranteed by Panini. It doesn't say whether it's game worn or anything like that, but it's numbered to $4.99
nice.
from Panini. But hey, it is what it is. A 2011. Pretty decent condition, for it being a pretty thick card.
Yep.
But yeah, pretty good. I'm really excited about next week's pickups when they come in because my Shingun Rainbow is looking pretty nice. So
nice.
As of right now, this is all that's come in today. I got a bunch coming in tomorrow. But this one made it in time for the podcast. So I'm pretty excited about that, man. This is gonna be one of the ones that I'll probably send to SGC just to get graded, to have it in a nice slab, and then on the wall it'll go. No pun intended.
Nice. John Wall, huh? What the hell made you buy John Wall?
So John Wall was with the Rockets for a while. I was really excited.
Yeah, I know.
about him jumping in there and making a difference, and then he, robbed us blind for like $40 million, and then he dipped. He didn't really dip; we cut him. But it was kind of a mutual thing. But I was a fan of his before. Kind of watched his play, watched his game, and then when I heard he was getting traded to the Rockets, I was super pumped about that. Picked up a handful of rookies and stuff like that, and his price shot up a little bit. I sold off a few of them, and then was kind of just left with just a handful of stuff. And I really wanted something premium. Not really premium, but I wanted something, a little bit more razzle dazzle than just like a Prism Auto or just like a Prism or something. But yep,
right.
good stuff,
well,
man.
That's good stuff. Adam wins this week's episode of.
Get out of here.
It's not even close. Christ,
not even close.
We're not having him back on after this.
Man. I know. But yeah, put us to shame, man. Good stuff though. Nah, man, what a story though, huh? I mean, 2000. What would you say? 2012.
2012. Right. Yeah.
Out of a 2022 pack.
The tops for like a decade. Like what are they doing with all those unfilled redemptions? That's what I don't know.
Right. That's a topic for. I mean, you've just spurned an
you scratched the surface.
That's a whole nother episode right there, baby. We'll have you back for that one.
Yeah, for sure.
100%.
Let's see. All right, so let's take a quick look at top runners for the week. Let me see here. I should have had this pulled up already, guys.
What are we doing? Baseball, or are we doing
baseball, baby?
All right.
Baseball, because this is going to get really interesting. Card prices. So let's take a look at this.
It's really not that exciting.
Baseball. Look at just for a second. I mean, I know we're still going to do baseball, but look at this. Bailey Zappi. How did he make? I mean, come on.
Yeah, he's the number one card in the whole system.
166 transactions in the last 7 days. Price has gone up almost 50%. No graded cards, all raw. Talk about a flip right there. If you were hanging on to a handful of those, and it's just score, right? Because that's the only thing out right now.
He's got. I saw the other day on Instagram someone posted like an auto or a patch auto or something. So he's got some stuff in like maybe gold standard or whatever the hell it is. Or I don't know. I don't know football product
gold
that
standard,
well.
Yeah, so it's usually score. There's usually some Prism draft stuff that comes out by now. Maybe some Contenders draft stuff that comes out by now, and then right away, I think like the first premium product that comes out is that gold standard.
Okay.
So taking a look at baseball. Obviously, we'll ignore the top two because those are just staples with the Griffey and the Jeter. And then, of course, my boy right up at the top, Yordan Alvarez, continues to sit up at the top of that list for the last 7 days, 80 transactions on him. Then Wander Franco right after that. And then Jordan, then Wander, then, man, how did Ricky Henderson jump up here? Ricky Henderson, 1980 tops.
What's interesting is, let's see here. If you go way down the list to like 58 on the 7-day volume there, that's where you find your first Bryce Harper card.
Yeah, and they're in the World Series, right?
Yep.
So
and he had an epic home run. Which I'm surprised like his cards didn't jump more. I actually was looking at that after the game and the last couple of days, and yes, it's moved a little bit, but like not what I thought it was going to move.
Yeah, it's had a little bit of an upward run here.
Yeah,
maybe like in the last few days.
Like I could talk about Bryce Harper for hours. He's, in my opinion, completely undervalued in this hobby. Mike Trout gets all the love and attention, but if you look at Harper's stats, they're right there, like they're almost identical. And Harper does have a World Series title under his belt. He's got an MVP. He was Rookie of the Year too, wasn't he, Adam?
He was Rookie of the Year. Yep.
So he's got some hardware. He was an MVP, wasn't he?
Yes, twice.
So
That
I mean, it's like he's got all the accolades. It's just interesting, you know.
Yeah, isn't
I don't know.
that wild? Like how disproportionate sometimes the value of a card within a hobby is completely off if you look at the accomplishments of the athlete, right? I mean, you know, you talk about we were talking about the other day, right? Big Shot Bob versus LeBron James, right?
Yep.
LeBron James, what, a couple handful of titles. Big Shot Bob's got like 7. You know,
Right.
so it's like, you know, it's just it doesn't always correlate, right? And this is another good example of that.
It's strange with this one because again, it's not like Harper hasn't had the hype behind him. I mean, he was hyped for a long time. I mean, he started getting hype at like 16.
Yeah.
You know, so maybe there's a little hobby fatigue on him a little bit, but there was definitely way more hype on him than there was Trout back in the day. I remember that. Like Trout was,
for sure.
You know, he was Bryce Harper was the guy. And then I think like the other big chase in that. Remember, like Adam, remember back in the day, Upper Deck had like the Olympic set. Like they had the 16U, they had the 18U, and it was like Harper and Ty on there, the pitcher. The kid that came out and went to Pittsburgh or whatever.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Jameson Ty, whatever his name is. Yep. So those two guys were like the chase. Harper obviously being the big chase. But yeah, I don't know. Just it's interesting to me. Like I think Harper is arguably top 3-4 baseball players in the game. You know, some people I guess don't like his antics a little bit, but it's not like he's, you know, getting arrested and like whatever. I don't know. He just plays hard, and
that's what I was gonna ask. I mean, is there any like off the field stuff that's like, you know, playing into that, or is
not
it
that I
just,
know.
you know, like fan favorite? Maybe he flipped the bat a little too hard one day, and all of a sudden nobody likes him. You know what I mean? Like, you know as well as I do, and you know the same thing, Adam. I mean, we can be very fickle when it comes to that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
I mean, this guy, you know, says something crazy on an interview one day, and all of a sudden everybody hates him, and his car prices go down. You know.
So I would attribute it to several factors. First, probably the hobby fatigue is setting in, but again, now resurging because of this historic playoff run that he's had. But the big thing that you brought up is that hype train. So performance over hype is usually one of my key factors that I look for when I'm putting money into a certain player or figuring out who I want to buy. So the performance over hype, sure, the first MVP season that Harper had was one of the greatest seasons of the past 20 years, in my opinion. I would argue probably Matt Kemp also put up a similar season in terms of came out of nowhere, massive year all the way around. But then I believe it was like the very next season, Harper just whiffed. So everyone was like trying to build on that momentum. Like once he had that first MVP season, it's like, okay, this guy's finally living up to that hype of being the 15-year-old on the cover of Sports Illustrated. And then the very next season is just a dud. And I think that sort of sucks some out. But that's kind of going back a little bit. I mean, the hobby wasn't remotely in the same situation that it is now.
Right.
But I think those two factors. And then, I mean, you talk about the character side of the shop. To me, he's turned it around entirely. He is a team guy, and he's setting the example for those younger guys. Where back when he was a kid, because remember he debuted at 19, he was a word that we would not use on a family program, but that was noted by the rest of the league and the veterans, and that's one cool looking card there, though.
Yeah, I like that one. That one's dope.
He's a 2-time MVP award winner.
Yep.
Yeah, that's some serious accolades, some serious hardware there for sure.
But you're right. I mean, the first year he won it in 15, he hit 330 with 42 bombs and 99 ribbies, and then the next year he dropped to 243 with 24 homers and 86 RBIs. So huge drop off there.
Yeah. He's done.
You know, but he's on pace. Like if you if you step outside the whatever and you look at, like, he's on pace for 500 homers. He's got a World Series title. Like, he's on pace for a Hall of Fame career.
Yep.
You know, like, I don't know. I just, to
Not
me,
on pace for a World
very
Series,
undervalued.
unfortunately, but
Yeah, we'll see, man. We'll see.
Maybe
Philly's
another
tough.
season, right? He'll be on pace for the World Series. Not this year, though. Not with the Stros, right?
not when my boys clicking. When my boys are hitting, my boys are hitting. And then we got a decent pitching, right? So when you got hitting like the way we got hitting, and then you got decent pitching like we got,
yeah,
man. And then we always have that one guy that seems to step up out of nowhere in the postseason, right? We got Presley that shut out the last 2 or 3 games. I mean, that guy played like an absolute. He pitched like an animal. And the last time we had a run like that, it was who was it? Charlie Morton.
Oh yeah, Charlie.
Uncle Charlie pitched his brains out for like 3 or 4 games to shut that thing out. So, I mean, I don't know. That's kind of the recipe, right? Is who's gonna come out and wow, right? And so far, it's been Presley this season. But I don't know. We'll see, man. It should be a good series. I hope. Actually, hopefully by now, I mean, we'll know who the winner is, right? By the time this airs.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So that should be interesting.
I'm taking the Phillies in 6.
You're taking Phillies in 6. What do you think, Adam?
Yep.
Oh man, I actually think Houston in 6. Houston.
That's
in
what
6.
I don't
think they're gonna keep the win streak going throughout the entire playoffs. That'd be insane.
No.
I mean, if that happens, okay, Dusty, you are the man, and congrats on your world championship, right?
Yeah,
but
for sure.
Yeah, I'm gonna go 6.
Well, we'll see.
We'll see. We should know by now.
That's
I'm pretty sure people are gonna let us know in the comments, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Good stuff, man. All right, cool. Well, let's get this thing kicked off, man. So the main thing that we're talking about today is prospecting, right? And I talked a little bit about, with JD, because I do quite a bit of it in basketball as well. I really, because I love basketball. I watch basketball all the time. And so I'm always looking out for these young players, guys whose games that I really just, get drawn to. And, I'll tend to pick up some stuff, and some of it is speculative, but most of it is, it's hopefully that they blow up, they do really well, and they become valuable, and you can move them for other assets that you want and things like that. And that's kind of how the game's played, right? So we're talking about strategy, right? JD, I know you got some kind of a strategy as well that you do, whenever you're out here looking for these young guys that are, potentially going to be some pretty good, maybe Hall of Famers, or at least, potential all-stars and things like that as their career goes along. But Adam, from what JD was telling me, you have a pretty scientific way you go about doing this. So let's get into that. How do you want to kind of introduce that, and how do you want to get started talking about that?
Sure. So I guess to me, I'll like kind of segment that into 2 separate concepts. First is prospecting, and then is the buying strategies that fall under that umbrella, right? So the big key, and we've touched on this slightly, is when you're prospecting is to so you want to investigate, with the understanding that you're looking for performance over hype. So in the prospect world, especially in baseball, because it starts at such a young level and there's a lot of subtle nuances to it because of the MLB draft. They're getting high school players coming from the draft. There's college players coming from the draft. Then there's the international signees, right? So all that feeds into these Bowman products. And a lot of times there will be big names that come out who sign for a lot of money. But that money is based on projected tools and not necessarily any performance measures that we can look at, right? So I think probably the easiest basis we can do here for the sake of the hobby writ large is let's look at like 2020 when the boom happened. So if you look at that international signing class, and Bowman dropped, you had like Jason Dominguez, Robert Paulson. Those were like the big guys, right? And then Bobby Witt. And we didn't have any data or any metrics to look at when it came to Dominguez. It was all like batting practice videos, or Robert Pawson, who is still a kid, right?
Mhm.
Now, Witt was a different story. Prep, high school, shortstop out of Texas, right? And so what you would see is people buying in to absurd amounts for Dominguez and like Robert Pawson and stuff. And then the same product, right? I'm going to throw a name out there that you might like to hear, Omar. Jeremy Pena sitting there in that product.
Oh, yeah.
No one cared, right? So for me, from like the get-go, right, I want to look at things that I can analyze and measure. And I can't measure someone telling me that this one player looks pretty jacked or something like that.
Hey, yeah, he
But
had a good batting practice.
yeah, well, what does that mean? You know, there's projectable power and then there's in-game power, and those are two separate things. And so from a prospecting standpoint, I like to see, at least at some degree or some level, performance and stats I can look at. And from there, right? So I would say the tool that I like to use most is going on Fangraphs and pulling up stats, doing some filtering, and I'll mess around with it. I'll look at different parameters from there, kind of organize it, filter by different stats to see who's a high performer in different categories, things like that. Foundationally, for me, again, we're basically just talking about hitters here from like a hobby and collectability standpoint, right? So that being said, I'm really big into guys that will make contact and get on base, right? So baseball has sort of evolved over the past few years where a lot of strikeouts, I would say the past 15, 20 years, right? A lot of strikeouts, a lot of dingers. But so the dingers are fun, but the strikeouts are kind of boring. And as an Orioles fan, it's not the most fun to see guys like Chris Davis, who we were hyped about, but then he just struck out 10,000 times in however many years he was with us. So what do I do? So performance over hype. I look up OPS, right? I try to make sure that I'm looking at players whose OPS sits around 800. That's a good measure of a consistent ball player who gets on base, hits for power, right? Other stats, I mean, they're all pretty basic and foundational. This shouldn't surprise anybody, but you want to look at like on base percentage. So that would tie directly into their K rate, their walk rate, things like that, where again, is the guy seeing the ball well and is he making contact? So to me, those two I look at probably first and foremost, as I know other prospectors or other guys who are into the Bowman community may look for other things, but for me, I always start there. And then I'll pull the thread, as they say, and kind of look at just batting, like standard batting average. I'll look at their ISO, so how much power they're projected, hard contact rate, and then if you really want to get into it, and this isn't necessarily, I don't necessarily agree with this, but it's sort of the way of the Bowman world. It's all about that age versus the level that they're playing in. So people want to get the next Juan Soto when he's 16 or 17 years old and think they're going to buy it for $5, sell it for however much Sotos are going for right now, right?
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah, big money.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, lot of
I'm in love with this Fangraphs situation.
Oh, isn't it sweet? You're looking at it right now,
dude. You pull you. So I'm a data guy. That's what I do for a living. And geez Louise, man.
Yeah,
this is the kind of stuff that you could really, if you're a data guy, fangraphs.com.
Yeah, Fangraphs rules.
Dude, it is legit. Right now, as you were just kind of rattling off some of those data points that you're talking about, I mean, it's all right here. And you can sort, you can, oh, dude, I'm in love with this. I wonder if they got anything like this for basketball.
Oh, I'm sure.
Interesting.
Yeah, and so you can
there has to be something
to like eliminate. So say your data universe, right? So the data universe you want to pull in a query, right?
Right.
You're like, I only want players whose OPS is above 700 and whose batting is 270, like equal to 270 or higher. well, I'm just kind of spitballing right now. So anyway,
yeah,
I'll
right.
set up those filters, right? But that's not like the only. I don't constrain myself to that because there's outliers, right? There's guys who may have a bad season. Another thing when you're prospecting, that people, which creates a buying opportunity, which I'll get to shortly. Like when they move up a level, there's always that regression a little bit. So there's that buying opportunity, right? When, like, for example, like an Anthony Volpe, who when he originally was moved up, he struggled, right? But with that being said, my primary foundational sentiment that I would share is performance over hype. So do your research, right? Understand the player's performance. And so I did pull up a few guys. I didn't pull their stats, but I just wanted to share a few names of guys who fall into this umbrella that I thought would be interesting for the viewers to consider and take a look at themselves. But a couple guys that I'm highly interested in potentially picking up this offseason. Evan Carter for the Rangers. Okay. Thomas Segezi.
Hang on, let me write this stuff down.
Yeah, go ahead and write him down. Yeah.
Evan Carter, minor. No, that's not it. Not minor league, right?
Yeah, he's a minor leaguer. Yep. All these guys are. Yep.
All right, Evan Carter.
Mm-hmm.
Who else?
Next up, Thomas Segezi, and I don't know if I'm saying that right, but it's S-A. I think it's 2 G's, so S-A-G-G-E-S-S-E. There might be 1 G, so correct me if I'm wrong there.
S-A-G-G.
So these are guys. There you go. 1 S.
E-S-E.
Yeah, S-A-G-G-E-S-E. Sagasi.
Sagasi. There you go. Yep. So those are a few guys that I've passively just kept an eye on that after this year solidified for me that they're worth taking a deep dive into and potentially buying into, right? Another two, I'll provide 2 other examples and then we can actually move into buying strategies. But Andy Rodriguez for the Pittsburgh Pirates, he was with the Mets in the Mets system, was traded to Pittsburgh, right? And so last year, at the end of the year, I did my data dive. And I usually like to do it after the Arizona Fall League wraps up, so I have as much information as possible. So I have the full minor league season, and then I have the Fall League season as well. And Andy Rodriguez stood out to me as a guy who, notwithstanding the fact that he's a catcher, so the hobby doesn't really give a lot of love to that position. Really. Yeah. No, just like nobody takes pictures of the drummer. No one cares about the catcher.
Yeah, so. Like it's like linemen in football, like offensive linemen. Nobody's collecting offensive linemen.
Yeah, no one cares. No one cares. So he's another one that I actually throughout the year I was able to unload my stake in him to free up some cash flow to get into other guys. But I'd say the best example that I could share with the group, and JD's quite familiar. I've known JD for a few years now, but I went in hard on Michael Harris early. And Michael Harris, well, I'm not sure when the award's announced, but maybe by this time the Rookie of the Year award will be announced and he may be the recipient. But the end of 2020, end of 2020, I went in on Michael Harris in a massive way and was able to build some more cash flow to go into other players that I'm interested in, pick up a few PC cards, and then in addition, hang on to my favorite that I'm probably just going to keep for my PC, but the true blue color match Harris. So I was able to
Michael Harris, the second.
Yes.
Atlanta Braves. Jesus, man, I feel old looking at these kids. 2001, born in 2001, 21-year-old.
Hey, and full disclosure, right? Like, Adam messages me, and he's like, listen, if you don't listen to anything else I ever tell you, buy Michael Harris.
This guy.
And I'm like, I'm like, dude, I know he's good. I got him on my dynasty team for fantasy. Like, and I never pulled the trigger. And then I start seeing it in Adam's Bowman Chrome group. I'm like, God darn it all. Like,
so you guys help. Okay, so educate me on something. because I've heard you say this a couple of times, Adam, and JD has said this in the past before as well. You've mentioned Bowman, because you're pretty specific about Bowman, the Bowman group, the Bowman fan base, the Bowman collectors. When it comes to prospecting, why is Bowman such the attraction? Why not Topps?
So Topps owns Bowman, right? And
Right.
the Bowman is the home of the prospect. Okay, so any prospect cards, and this kind of goes, it plays into the MLB Players Association agreement with like licensing for sports cards, right? So
Gotcha.
a player cannot have a rookie card with the rookie card stamp until they've played X amount of games at the pro level. Well, as in the MLB level, not professionally writ large, but MLB level, they have to play a certain amount of games before they qualify to have that rookie card stamp. Now, your Topps products, your standard flagship, that's where the rookie cards are.
Gotcha.
Okay, and then any other subsequent Topps product after that. But that first card that these young players have ever in a professional uniform are the Bowman cards, because Bowman is where the prospect sets are housed.
So that's where Bowman, like the Bowman firsts, that's where that comes
exactly.
from.
Yep. Yeah, and that's evolved over time too. I mean, 10, 15 years ago, it was a different game. You know, back when I was chasing Phil Hughes' first Bowman or his Bowman auto, or Nick Markakis, or Brandon Wood. I know some of these names no one would even know, but these were some of the hyped guys back in 15 years ago. It was all they're Bowman, but it wouldn't necessarily have that first Bowman insignia like they do now. Which is like the standard. People like have that as a qualifying parameter of a card they'll want. Like, well, it has to be his first Bowman auto. Well, there are lots of cases where a player would have their first Bowman card, their first card in a uniform, but it wouldn't have the autograph, right? So then that next card that had the autograph was their first card with an autograph that was Bowman, but it didn't have the stamp, right? So
gotcha. Okay.
Definitely getting a little too far in the weeds there. I know it's a convoluted.
No. That's yeah, because I mean, like for me, it's one of the things that has always really kind of kept me from, because like I said, I love my Astros, right? So because I love my Astros, you know, I want to buy some stuff to have in the PC, and I ran into this brick wall whenever I first decided to make a jump into it, which was last year, was to try to pick up some Jordan stuff. And you know, I was just like, you know, and it's just like anything else, right? Like I want to get into the baseball stuff. I want to pick up some Jordan PC. I want rookie cards. I want Chrome. I want that kind of thing. But then I started seeing, you know, like the Bowman Chrome and the Bowman for like, okay, so then which one is the flagship rookie card? And so that's kind of where I fell into, you know, trying to figure out like, okay, well, you know, from a hobby perspective, what is looked at as the rookie card, you know, whereas, you know, like in basketball and football, it's the Prism Silvers and things like that. You know, what's that equivalent in baseball? And that makes a lot of sense. What you're saying is kind of one of them's a prospect, the other one is the actual stamped, shielded rookie card for a flagship product. So,
but with that being said, there's another aspect there. So you could say, what is the rookie card, or what is the premier sought after card of said player I want, regardless of of whether it's the rookie or the Bowman. And I would argue the foundation for all of this with the Bowman world probably started in 2001 with the Albert Pujols Bowman Chrome Auto. That card changed the game. It changed everything. And so I mean, I'm sure you guys have seen it. It's a very iconic card. And then the next generation is that Trout Bowman Auto. And so that's why I would go with, like, if I'm trying to pick up someone for my PC, I'm going to want that Bowman Chrome autograph card. And likely, if it's in my PC, the player played in the early to mid 2000s. So it's probably in a Beckett slab, because to me, I'm just a creature of habit, and love to see that BGS 9.5. So that's the Bowman. So that's an iconic card. The Bowman Chrome, so that's where we get the subtle nuances to it. If you, let's see, so bottom right corner, that looks like a non-auto, but that's the card. So that
Bowman
is
auto,
like the
Bowman auto.
premier to the bottom right with the black.
Bowman Chrome. Here we go.
There you go. There it is.
PWCC, baby. Good old P. Ah, Jesus, really? Anyway,
There you go.
that's interesting.
Yeah, that's it
Yeah,
right
so
there.
that is that card changed the game. That changed everything, in my opinion. I think that's the beginning of Bowman supremacy over the baseball hobby.
Yep. I would agree. I remember
Interesting.
it's funny you mentioned that stuff, that early the Bowman back in the day, man. I ripped so much 06 Bowman looking for Longoria stuff. I was so high on Evan Longoria. Like the shop near me, the guy's like, the superfractor still hasn't been pulled, and I'm like, give me 2 more boxes. And he had a full case. Then I kept trying to buy it off him. He wouldn't sell it to me. But it's the prospecting thing is it's crazy. It's its own beast altogether in the hobby. It's its own space. Now, Adam, you brought up a lot of great points, and like I think to me what's really interesting is the way or the emphasis you actually put on real life statistics into your purchases. Sometimes for me, I go straight gut and I'm like, this guy's going to be great. And I'm all in on him for whatever reason. But do you find with your process that you have, what's your success rate as far as when you're trying to establish or determine these guys that you want to buy? Then let's just say like, the list you gave, right? What's your success rate as far as what you spend your money on, as far as for like flipping or whatever it is you're doing, collecting, whatever? How often do you hit on your process?
So that question sort of ties directly to what's my exit strategy. So
Yep.
in terms of hitting and missing, there's different lengths of holds that I would maintain for different players. And
Okay.
so I can tell you it's definitely better than 60-40, right? But I also protect myself by knowing timing of sales. Now, I tell you the success story of Michael Harris. Well, at the very same time, I was equally as high on Brent Doyle for the Rockies, who still love, by the way.
Okay.
He played his college ball about 30 minutes from me, where I live in Maryland. So he played a small D2 school, and so he was a guy that performed very well, high contact rate, just an athletic type of player, similar to Harris. But Harris, there's something about Harris that I really liked more. But I bought equally into Doyle, and now I'm sitting on a stack of Brent Doyle cards. Now, granted, he'll be a AAA this coming season, and he also hit over 20 home runs. So the tale hasn't been told yet on him. But as far as the success rate, what I'll do if I buy, it depends on like how much I buy into somebody. If I buy a substantial amount, I like to do the Chris Sewell method, so where he'll gradually unload throughout a performance. So like Michael Harris, right? So what I did, Michael Harris. Okay, so I only own 2 Michael Harris cards now, and this is all this year. So I can give you an example, and I'll demonstrate how I protect myself. So it's not necessarily like this player hit or this missed, because I have a strategy of holding and moving, right? So Michael Harris, I had a bunch of raw, I had a bunch PSA 10, and these are all the Bowman autos. Right at the beginning of the year, when his prices went up at spring training, I unloaded all the raw. I knew that the return there wouldn't necessarily be as high as like a PSA 10. Beginning of the year, unloaded. That provided me an opportunity to have some cash flow to move into some other guys. But the big move that I did is sold a few of the PSA 10s after spring training when the hype was still building. Put all those into an orange. So like during this season, I picked up an orange Harris. Was able to turn that into something huge because of how well he performed. But the thing is, my profits on the Harrises that I sold, basically I got that orange for nothing, right? So like if you count, I already broke even on my sales. It was all profit I put into this orange. So it was like free, it was free money.
Yeah.
And so that's a little bit of a different story though, because that's probably been my most successful play in terms of prospecting. But a lot of times, well, should we pivot into buying strategies then? Because this,
so I think that's going to
yeah.
because that's going to lead into our exit strategy where you could kind of tie that in a little bit, right?
Okay, excellent. Yeah, so buying strategies, right? So there's a few things that I do every year, in addition to evaluating performance and using that measure over hype, right? And avoiding FOMO when a new product drops and like buying whoever the hot name is simply because they're hot, right? So buying strategy, fundamental concept here is to seasonally make your purchases. So once the World Series wraps up, that's sort of fair game for me to start hitting up card shows, making the rounds, sniping auctions on eBay, things like that. And I'll basically develop a list of players based on some of those Fangraphs filters that I'll set up, and then some other measures. So big thing for me is thinking about next year, right? So next year, who are going to be the hyped guys? And more often than not, it's guys that were hyped prospects the previous season that were late season call-ups. So, for example, this isn't buying recommendations, by the way. This is just strategies that
we are not financial advisors. This is not financial advice.
Amen. Thanks for that. So I'm taking a hard look, and granted, there's some baked in inflation on their prices, but I'm taking a hard look at Corbin Carroll. I'm taking a hard look at Ezekiel Tovar, and I'm taking a hard look at Gunnar Henderson. And they're very hyped prospects who have performed, and that's the key here. They've performed to the standard that I would feel comfortable with, eliminating hype, and not even the emotional aspect for me as like an Orioles fan citing Gunnar Henderson.
Yeah, I was going to say Henderson's an Orioles kid.
Exactly. So what's the concept behind this? It's they were late season call-ups, so some of that momentum from their call-up will undoubtedly secure a spot for them for the big league roster the following season. And any spring training performance will help bake in some extra padded selling opportunities for you. And so that's one element that I'll look at. In addition, is looking at guys who will potentially get called up the next season. So regardless of how well they play, that call up in itself is an opportunity to buy and sell. Okay. So a couple guys that could be, you look at what level, what age they are. Again, those are sort of factors here. So who's in AA, who's in AAA, and who's around like 21 up. Those are all prime candidates to potentially get called up, especially if you look at their numbers and it looks like they're ready. So few guys that I'm kind of contemplating are Aaron Vala, again, another Rangers guy. I keep bringing up all these Texas guys for you, Omar. I intentionally did that.
Hi, baby.
And then Kyle Manzardo for Tampa. He's been raking. He's a single dimensional guy though. He's all bat, no defense. He's just kind of a first baseman DH type of guy. Another guy that will certainly get called up is Casey Schmidt for the San Francisco Giants, who he's older. He'll be like, so from a prospecting perspective, the Bowman nerds will probably turn a blind eye, but the baseball fan will see him come up and want to buy his cards based on his performance. So that's a good opportunity. And then this one's for JD, my boy Sal Frelick, the Boston high school Boston extraordinaire in all things Massachusetts high school sports, right? Didn't he was a hockey All-American, basketball, football, everything.
Freak show.
Yeah.
Freak show.
So I would say that Sal Frelick, the intangibles from an athletic standpoint, right, coupled with the numbers that he puts up. If you look at his on-base percentage, right, his batting average, his contact rate, the guy hits, okay? And what people get hesitant or apprehensive about, why this is a buying opportunity, is everyone wants power. Everyone wants that sexy home run. right? When guys like Sal Frelick or a Michael Harris grow into their bodies or they continue to develop, those doubles ultimately turn into home runs. And that's exactly what happened with Harris. And I'm not going to go out here and say Sal Frelick's going to be a home run hitter because I don't think so. But I think he's an athletic freak. And that would translate into a very productive Major League Baseball player. And if you look at where his prices are compared to hyped guys who haven't done anything, it's a no-brainer. You want to pick up Sal Frelick.
Absolutely. I actually have quite a bit of him. Back to Corbin Carroll, who's another guy I have an extensive amount of. Do you ever take into account the players' just physical size? Because Carroll's a small dude. I mean, he's 5'10", $165 right now, $170.
I hope the answer is yes, because I literally started my Yordan Alvarez PC after seeing that man in person, and I was like, that guy is not human. I'm picking up everything I can of his.
I'm very glad you asked that question, and I'm glad you brought up the Jordan comparison because Sal Frelick is the same situation as Corbin Carroll. So for me, it's not a deterrent. To me, I see those are windows to buy. So that's like you being a secretive, savvy investor. I wouldn't say investor, but someone who is looking for buying windows. And if you look at people who shy away because someone's short, but someone like a Corbin Carroll who just mashes, he hits home runs, and he's only like 5'9", 165. The dude rakes, and so for me, it wouldn't be a deterrent as much as it would be. I stocked up heavily in Corbin Carroll, but it was in 2020, so it was a buying window. And I'll give you an example of how you can use that to your advantage. I had a purple Adley Rutschman Bowman Chrome Auto, PSA 9. Okay, Adley Rutschman, number one prospect. Everyone knows Adley. So back in 2020, I traded that for a gold wave, so out of 50, Corbin Carroll BGS 9, 1-for-1. So I was $800 into this Corbin Carroll because I purchased the Adley for $800. Did that 1-for-1. It was a risk because Corbin Carroll's small. There's a smaller sample size. Adley Rutschman's the top prospect. Everyone knows Adley Rutschman. But I moved into this more scarce Bowman first auto, and ended up working out in my favor for multiple reasons. First, Carroll has been a phenomenal performer regardless of his size. And then second, I cracked it out of that BGS slab, sent it to PSA, and they gave it a 10. So I got I got a BGS 9 bumped to a 10. I don't know how that happens, but I did it. I only sent it to put it in a PSA slab so I could sell it faster, and they gave it a bump. So ended up doing well with that card too. But to get, sorry, I kind of went on a side tangent there, but to get to the heart of your question, I see those as buying opportunities. I see those as savvy opportunities. Granted, I definitely want to buy a guy like a Jordan Alvarez or like a current prospect of that stature, like a Jordan Walker. But those guys have a lot of baked in money is required to get in. Yeah, it's tough. It's a little tricky. So I like to minimize my risk by looking at opportunities where guys are undervalued. And so that actually kind of transfers over to the other category in my buying strategy of looking for under the radar performers that have solid performance. And so a decent example for this year, and it's one of the cards that I sent over in the chat. It's Julio Carreras for the Colorado Rockies. And Carreras, there's a few reasons why he's very much under the radar. One is that he's a 22-year-old playing in, I think he was in high A and then moved into double A. So he's a little old for the level. There he is. Yep. So there's Carreras. So I would say that, and then he doesn't offer a lot of power. So you could pick up, I was looking at comps on this guy, and you can pick up his Bowman Chrome first, just a base, okay? you can pick that up from anywhere from like $2 to $10. So my thought is, if you want to drop $50 on this guy, picking up a bunch of like $2 to $5 first Bowmans, very low risk. And what I like about him is that he hits around 280, and he also led the entire minor league. So every single level, every single minor league team, he led in doubles. And like I mentioned before, those doubles sometimes transfer into home runs as they get
homers.
Yeah.
Right? So,
Especially in Colorado.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, come on. Like, you couldn't ask
super
for
thin
better.
air.
Yep. So,
All right. Yeah, you can walk
me,
into
this
20
guy-
homers there.
yeah. And so this was me doing a little fan graph maneuvering and then looking up who led in doubles. And this is the guy, right? So he to me screams like a great buying opportunity. And what I would do is I would purchase probably the base. I purchased that yellow raw right when that product came out for like $20 or something. So I'm just gonna sit on it, but wait for him to get called up or whatever. And just from that alone, you're looking at potentially like a $20 to $25 card. And say you spend $100, right, and buy a bunch of them for $5. What's the return on that if they sell for 25, right? So you're doing pretty well.
Yeah.
And it's small. It's all about like selling to scale. So the other elephant in the room is that everyone's doom and gloom with the hobby, but I think that's nonsense. I think it's about reevaluating your margins and scaling accordingly. So that's another method to modify this for sure. So what did we talk about? Late season call-ups, people who are going to get caught up the following year. We talked about under radar performers, and then undervalued players that may be in similar positions as hyped guys. And I'll give you one example that I like, and I suggest that maybe the two of you, as like a friend and not me providing investment advice, pick up Oswald Peraza for the New York Yankees. Okay. Oswald Peraza.
I don't know if I can do that as somebody from Texas.
Yeah, you're talking to a Red Sox fan.
Yeah, you're talking to a Red Sox fan and
and
an Astros fan here, man. Yeah, buying
I'm
Yankee
a
stuff.
O's fan. I hate the Yankees. The Yankees are the worst fandom in baseball. Worst fandom in baseball. I said it. Said it. They invade Camden Yards.
Yeah, just wait until the next video that comes out on Friday. That was like my opening line is how crappy Yankees fans are. They were booing Aaron. Get all the way the hell out of here. How do you do that? Anyway,
it's disgusting. Disgusting.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But,
go back to Oz, old Oz here. What do we got? Because I'm interested now.
A man called Oswald Peraza. He is top 2 or 3 prospect for the Yankees, shortstop. Plays well. He started last season off rough, but a lot of players, a lot of prospects this past season, for some reason, they all started off slow, and then once the summer months hit, everyone started performing. But if you look at his prices, compare them to an Anthony Volpe, who a lot of similar attributes. Volpe, you could argue, has more power, whereas Peraza is going to be your speed guy and your defense sort of guy. But if you look at their prices, and then you look at this guy, Oswaldo Cabrera, who came up for the Yankees late this year and was on the playoff roster, look what happened to those prices for those guys. And I see Peraza getting called up at the end of the season, but not having a spot on the roster. It was mainly, I think, more lip service for like Aaron Boone to like save face by calling him up and like, you know, that was like more of a political move in my opinion, since he didn't really get a lot of playing time. But that guy is going to be the starting shortstop for the Yankees next year, Oswald Peraza. So that carries a lot of weight. And if you look at his prices, compare them to Anthony Volpe, to me, the market might try to match those two, or maybe not necessarily match it, but his prices might kind of uptick. So that's sort of I guess I'm like providing anecdotal explanation here, but like an undervalued player who has a similar situation. In this case, Oswald Peraza is vastly undervalued compared to Volpe, but has a similar situation in that he will be a keystone infielder for that organization, and he's got several years of performance to back up the hype. So to me,
his Bowman Chrome is moving for looks to be about $5. Refractor.
Is that his auto? That's probably the draft,
yeah,
right?
Waldo. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's interesting there, right? Because I like to I go about it, and I'm gonna. I love like this Fangraphs thing. Like,
Yeah.
I'm definitely gonna toy around with this now in the winter months. But what's interesting, right? You go on MLB Top 100, and Volpe's 5th overall, and Peraza, who played 18 games for the Yankees, is 50th. And I know the rankings don't necessarily matter that much, but one guy made it to the show, has got a good shot at being the shortstop for the New York Yankees next year, while the other guy batted 249 at A and AA. I don't think he made it to AAA.
He did at the very end of it was the very end of the season when they called him up to AAA.
Yeah, he did. So he started at AA and then ended up in Scranton. And he batted 236 in 22 games. So he had 110 games at AA and 22 at AAA, where he batted 251 at AA and 236 at AAA. 21 bombs for the season in the minors. But what's interesting, though, like you're saying, you've the data doesn't lie, right? And there's so much data and analytics out there available now to just the average Joe. Like, if you really start digging into it and understand some, like, and again, I think you hit the, well, for the average guy, you really gave everybody some just general stats that really kind of highlight things, right? So OPS, on base plus slugging percentage, OBP, average, then you get into all that other stuff, right? But OPS, if you're saying, I think you mentioned 800 is your threshold you look for, like your so anything over 800 is a pretty good projection as far as like the dude gets on base, right? 900 is like superstar level, and then I think a 1 is, you're talking the elite guys. But it's really interesting, like when you think about that, like the way you go about this is pretty friggin' awesome, dude. Like it really is awesome. Like I'm thoroughly I haven't said 2 words because I've literally been sitting here taking notes.
That's a good point, because I think a lot of people are gonna I can see it in the comments already, JD, right? It's like, oh, they're not even paying attention. No, let me tell you, I don't know about I can't speak for JD, but everything that Adam is saying right now, I am like,
I've got website. Yep.
In the website, I haven't gotten off of Fangraphs since he mentioned it.
Like, it's yeah.
I got my book right here. It's like
crazy.
Yeah, man.
It's really like, this is why I wanted to have you on, because I really think I don't want to say think. I really believe the way you go about this, man, is impressive. And it's like, you pay attention to detail. You have like a strategy that is tried and true for you, and sharing that right now with everybody. And I know like this tends to be more of a basketball leaning, channel, as how Omar kind of got his feet under him and whatnot. But there's a lot of baseball fans out there that do this stuff, and everybody likes to be right with their, like, I'm
with their picks.
I'm going all in on Marcelo Mayer, right? It's really cool how you take the data side, translate that into your budget, and then base your buying off of pretty much kind of like Moneyball in a sense, right? I mean, you're like a card version of Billy Bean. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool, man. I literally have been sitting here writing things down like a total nerd.
I'm still on Fangraphs, so I mean, like, For me, that's
you're gonna be on. Yeah, I go down Fangraphs rabbit holes at the end of every season and spend way more time than my wife would appreciate on Fangraphs.
But so like at the end of the day though, Adam, I mean a lot of this stuff that you're doing, you're obviously trying to find value. You know, JD likes to say a lot about having his money work for him, right? I mean, we're all in this. You also mentioned a couple of times that you're picking up PC stuff, and I was just kind of scrolling through your Instagram right now, looking at some of the stuff that you've been picking up PC wise, some of your Griffies and things like that. Ultimately, if you can, I mean, obviously you're having fun with this, right? I mean, that's kind of the number one thing is what drives the majority of us to keep buying pieces of cardboard with grown men on them. But you're having fun with this at the end of the day, and if you can do something like what you do with the prospecting to have fun and then ultimately pay for your PC, like that is the best thing in the world. See, I don't really do a whole lot of the prospecting. The few dollars that I get from YouTube for doing this channel on a weekly basis, I funnel that right into cards. That's how I pay for my hobby. That's how I pay for my addiction, right? And it's important that that all of us, a lot of us, especially now, man, the economy is about to go into crapper, right? And we got to try to figure out ways that we can make this continue on and continue, because we don't want to stop doing it. I certainly don't want to stop buying cards every week, and it's all about figuring out how we can do that without pissing our wives off because they keep seeing eBay charges on our accounts every week, right? That's what it's
called. I mean, it's called get a separate account, bro.
Yeah, it's not wrong. Not wrong.
Well, you got to get a card account.
No, I get that, but at some point you got to fill that account, right?
Yeah, but again, like going back to like what Adam's at, and this is one question I did have for you, because I don't want to forget it. You mentioned about the call up for these prospects. Is that like if you go in on a guy like we'll go with Wander, just because everybody knows who Wander is, right? So people, there's hype there. There was a lot of, I mean, the kid was coming, whether the Rays were prepared for it or not. He was coming. The hype was there. Are there guys that can get too hyped before their call up date? Like, how much does that call up date factor into what you do as far as like an exit strategy type thing?
So that is one of the trickiest actions to try to navigate around is the selling around the call up, right? So for me, I've definitely hit and missed with this, but one thing that I find interesting is if you are using the numbers and some of these other buying windows to make smart purchases, players. At the end of the day, you need to believe in these players. You need to believe in their performance and their value, right? So if you hold after the call up, so call up happens, there's always a jump. Then there's an immediate fall. So usually what happens is there's an opportunity there if these players actually perform that the value will level out. So again, I'm going back to Harris because he's just happened this year, but there was an initial jump with Harris for the call up. But the first couple weeks we're sort of feeling things out, and then maybe a month goes by and his prices kept rising and up and up. And so if you using stats, right, analyzing and believing in who, like if you're not like buying into hype, okay, there are still opportunities throughout the year after call to sell players. And even Wander is a good example of that, because what happened with Wander, hits home run in his debut, everyone loses their minds, and then he slumps for a few weeks. And like the month of July, it was just a Wander just drop off. Everything tanked. Then Wander turns around and has that rookie on base streak, right? So the consecutive games. I don't remember exactly what it was, but he had consecutive game streak for a rookie where he got on base. And when that was going on, you saw his prices climb back up to that initial spike during call up. So it's so difficult. And so that's why what I do is sell along the way. I try to find opportunity, like windows where, hey, he's taking off right now and I'm up on this card X%. I'm going to unload some now and then hold some more, see where they're at. And then maybe a call up, move some more, and then hold on to a few others. But again, a lot of those examples are more lower dollars, like the Julio Carrerases of the world, where I'm buying a bunch of like $5 cards. I can do that. The Wander game, I would say, in terms of understanding the economic situation we're in and where the hobby's headed, that's where you need to be smart about going into different players and different cards that have that baked in value. And so that's why I look for those weird oddball guys where like I'm not buying into a card that already cost me $500. I'm buying into a card that cost me like 20, because the drop off from 500 for a guy who maybe just performs average compared to a different prospect who performs the same, $20 to $5. So that's sort of the scaling of your purchasing that people need to like definitely factor into what they're doing moving forward with the hobby. And I'll give you a good example of, because I think at the beginning of this conversation you asked me how long I've been in the hobby. It's been since 1992. 1992 when my grandfather gave me a 1990 Topps Cal Ripken record breaker card that I still have. It's like beat the hell. That's when I first started collecting. And so when I got through like high school, like throughout high school and college, what I was doing with these Bowman cards, I would buy a card for like $50, and then during the season I would sell it for like 100 or 120. And granted, those margins grew a ton when COVID happened. It was like you're buying a card for $20 and selling it for 10x, and I mean that's not real. That was fake. And I think people, when things settle, people will realize what reality is in the hobby. And I think I gave you this example the other day, but for like 4 consecutive seasons, I bought Austin Meadows Bowman Chrome autos for like $50, and I'd sell them for like 150. And I did that like every off season for like 4 seasons until his hype sort of died enough to where no one cares about him anymore. So there's you just do stuff like that, and some of that was based on fantasy baseball analysis. I'll tell you, the 2 examples of players that really got me doing what I do now because I missed my window to buy. Number one is your boy Yordan Alvarez, and so I like did the research, right, and I got everything aligned for my fantasy team, but he was not someone I had previous offseason. And then his like rookie year and everything, like 2019 when he came up, so before his rookie year in 2020, I was like, why didn't I buy any of this dude's Bowman autos? Because you could get them for under $100. I think they were like $60 or $50. Like, and back then, people didn't realize when grading wasn't insane. I'm talking like BGS 95s of these cards you could get for like 50, 60, $80.
Wow.
Not raw, right? It was just a different world and
different time, yeah.
Yeah, exactly, different time. So, but the big one was Yordan, and then the other one was Francisco Lindor before he signed with the Mets. But same thing with him. He was a guy I like researched into when he was in the minors. Picked him up on my dynasty fantasy team like the season before, but never bought any of his cards. And then he came up and just destroyed, and then his stuff shot up. You could have bought those, I think, same sort of window as Yordan back in the day, $60, whatever, and then they shot up to like 300-400. And you're like, what did I do? Why didn't I buy?
So you're like, never again.
Exactly. Now I'm like, I'm just gonna do it. I'm just gonna see what happens, and I do fairly well with it. I can't say I don't miss. I think everyone misses, and then understanding those windows to sell is always very nuanced and difficult. But as long as you put the due diligence up front, set some parameters for yourself, and turn a blind eye to FOMO of the latest product and buying whoever the hot name is, and just hype. Avoid that. Turn put your blinders onto that. Focus on the numbers, and it usually works out for you.
Nice.
I mean, I got a bunch of stuff bookmarked here. I'm screwed for like the next hour and a half. I'm supposed to be, I'm supposed to be coming down right after this podcast, and it's just not going to happen.
Not tonight.
Yeah, this was, I gotta say, for a first guest, you set the bar
pretty high.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Like no joke, dude. This was like you took us to school.
For real. That's a good point.
Like we went to Bowman Chrome School, like baseball prospecting 101. We just went to school, and I can't thank you enough for it. It was
dude.
It was we're gonna have to do this again because honestly, man, like you just gave us so much information that I think Omar and I we're not sharp. So we're gonna have to process this over the next 2 years.
Hey, I like anytime, man. I'm happy to join you guys. I love all the work that you guys do for the hobby, and obviously the friendships that we've developed over the past few years amid the crazy boom. Right, it's been really an awesome opportunity to meet a lot of cool people.
You know what, man? I think what we need to do, Omar, is have him back because one of the things we talked about last night was like. Adam grades with everybody, and like I was asking him about, and that'll be another 4 hours of conversation.
Yeah, there's a lot.
It's interesting, like his reasoning and his methods to where he sends cards is very interesting, and I do think that our listeners would really appreciate his insight. So I think we need to have you on again over the winter time,
just to talk about grading.
Yeah, talk about that and things like that, and maybe by then Omar and I will have a stack of prospect cards we can share as well.
Excellent.
I can neither confirm nor deny that I've just bid on some Peraza stuff. I can neither confirm nor deny that I have made some best offers within the last 20 minutes. So yeah, for sure. Dude, I love stuff like this, man. This is the kind of thing that I really dig in terms of especially when it comes to long form type stuff. A lot of people have been complaining like, hey, you guys are going for an out. Listen, if you're really looking for some information, you'll do whatever you got to do to absorb the amount of information that you're looking to get. And I'm sorry, but a 10-minute chit chat just ain't gonna do it. You know what I mean? So
no.
Adam, tell everybody where they can find you on Instagram. I know you're on Instagram. So go ahead and give everybody your Instagram, your social medias. Where can people link in with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm on Instagram at @SoSharpAtGertz, a little play on my last name. Nice. And so predominantly post just interesting hobby related material there, whether it's PC pickups or instances of doing a nice crack and cross through different grading companies, things like that.
Oh, nice.
I do some prospect focus posts, although I really moved more into just updating story posts or story grading reveals, things like that. But I do have some interesting breakdowns of prospects. Probably this winter, after I crunch the numbers, I'll have a bunch of posts like weekly where I'll deep dive into a player that I'm interested in based on a few variables like what we talked about. And then I just set up at local card shows around the DMV area. So yeah, definitely check out the Instagram. Feel free to give me a shout, and definitely would like to connect, and feel free to pick my brain and I'll do the same. So appreciate it.
Awesome. So Sharp It Gertz, Gertz. We'll link it down at the bottom if you guys want to check it out. Man, JD, anything last from you, buddy?
No, my brain is on overload today. I knew this was going to be intense. I knew it was going to be intense.
Good stuff.
But man, thank you so much, and again, thank you for your service to our country.
100%.
Don't want to let that not get talked about either, man, because it's a big sacrifice, especially with a family now, and and whatnot. And I've seen your clips. I know what you do. So it's not like you're, sitting under a tree eating bonbons. So thank you, man. I appreciate you.
I appreciate the support. Absolutely.
Thanks a lot, guys. We appreciate all you guys for watching. All the links are in the description. Please like, comment, subscribe. Follow us on Instagram at Retro Hoop Breaks. This actually has JD your
Hey, I just noticed that.
Yeah.
An hour and a half later, I just noticed that. Dude, that's how dialed in I was to what you were saying. I just noticed that.
So you guys follow us on all the Instagram stuff, Facebook, Twitter, all that jazz. We thank you guys for watching as always. Love y'all. Peace.